Welcome to Ayana's Musings. Now, in this video, I will now proceed on sharing to you how to apply for a K-1 visa, a complete K-1 visa packet compilation guide of our own version. So what you need is to prepare, gather, and hopefully send the necessary information. Now, in this first part of the video, I will just completely explain the necessary information needed, and then I will then attach a slide corresponding to the information that I have given you. So what I want you to do is first take out a copy of the Form I-129F, and let's go over the detail of filling in the forms and other additional information and documents that you need to provide. So in this case, this will just plainly be talking about whatever information that I know of and sharing the experience and how we did it on our own. So first, on your Form I-129F, I need you to go to the USCIS.gov website and make sure that the form that you have expires on July 31, 2022. That means it's the most recent document that you have, or the petition for Alien Fiance. So in this case, let's go over in the page 1 to 13. So not really specific to the items, but let's just go over quickly just to make sure that your questions will be answered, and this will serve as a quick guide to go over it. Okay, so in part 1 of that, you will have page 1 of 13. Technically, the part where it says part 1 information about you, that would refer to your petitioner, the US citizen. So provide the necessary information, and for 4A, you have to click Fiancé K-1 visa. But before I proceed, please bear with me because I have 2 screens, technically 3. This is a camera, and have on the left is the slides that I will be attaching to the video, and then on my right is another screen where it's showing the entire documents and notes that I have to share with you. Okay, so full name, that's again your petitioner, and then other names used if the petitioner have other aliases, or maiden name or nickname that has been used. Mailing address, make sure it's correct. All details are provided properly, because this is where you will be receiving the official mail from USCIS from your receipt notice. That's where they have accepted your petition, and at the same time, if they will be giving you or sending you mail that's needed from your petition, may it be your request for further evidences, and may it also be the acceptance of your petition. So in that case, let's proceed to part 2 or page 2 of 13. That is still the information about petitioners. So your address history, these are the physical addresses that you have lived in the past 5 years. So in this case, whether you're inside or outside the United States. So when you say physical address, that means address 1, address 2, that means that's all the different information you have to provide. Now, for example, you have to add more information. Just go to page 13, that's part 8, additional information, and then provide the other details needed. And the next is employment history as well. If the page is not enough, add another item under page part 8, additional information, and page 13. Next is, now we go through page 3 of 13. That's information again of still the petitioner, and then petitioner's parents, and then citizenship information. So choose any of those, and if ever you have obtained a certificate of naturalization, of course you have to provide the necessary information and document. Now, if we move on to, now moving to page 4 of 13, you can see that you have to add additional information of, again, if you have those necessary details. But now under the same page, you have part 2, information of beneficiary. In this case, this is already your fiance who's on a different nationality. Now, of course, since I'm a Filipina, originally I come from the Philippines, I will be more biased on sharing information about that. I will have to change language, either English, Filipino or Tagalog, and Bisaya if necessary, just so I could provide you enough guide on what are the necessary details and information that you should provide. Now, in this case, you are the beneficiary, provide the necessary information. And then if you have been issued a U.S. Social Security number before, if you've been here in the U.S., you've worked here, please do provide that information. And then, so that's other stuff. Details are self-explanatory in this page. Let's proceed to page 5 of 13. Now, it says here, mailing address for your beneficiary. That means your address if you're in the Philippines. So in my case, I put my name in 11A, and then sa street number, nilagay ko na lang barangay, and then what name? Barangay name. I skip 11C. I put NA, and then I put my city. I skip 11E sa state, and then I technically skip the zip code, but then I proceed to postal code of where I live. And then proceeding to beneficiaries' address history. So in my case, I really provided physical addresses where I lived for the past 5 years. That means my physical address 1 is where I was born, I grew up, and then I moved to another city for work, and then I lived overseas in Korea, so I also provided that address. And then I lived in Manila for a bit of time, and then I provided that address. So since it only has a limited number of information, I also added that to part 8, additional information. Now, it also applies here sa beneficiary's employment history. You could also do that and provide additional information in part 8 if necessary. So continuing to page 6 of 13, let's go to the information about your parents. It's okay if you can also you can only provide parent 1 information, and the other one you can just put NA. If you've previously been married, you can say yes, and of course provide additional information after that. And no, of course no. And then please do not forget to put NA. Tip, never leave blank spaces. Always put NA if it does not apply to you. Proceeding to page 7 of 13, that's where, okay, sorry, go back to page 6 of 13. Now, if in the case that as a beneficiary you have been here in the US, this is very important. So in my case, I'll be sharing that because I've been here previously in 2013 as an exchange student for about a month. So therefore, I will have to answer this. So 38A, I put exchange student. And then 38B, I-94 arrival departure record number. In this case, you can also obtain this, I think, but I'm not sure. But if ever it applies, you can check it. So it could also be a tourist visa, because obviously you will have this type of record. So how to check your I-94 arrival departure record number. So I need you to go to Google and just type I-94, let's see, I-194 arrival departure record. And obviously the first one, or even you can just put I-94 online. In that case, the first one that would come up to Google will be I-94 official website. So that's i94.cbp.dhs.gov. So click that and you will go through the website. So you can see it's legit, of course, and then click on, so you will have 3 options. May tatlong options dyan. Apply for a new I-94, get most recent, view travel history, and view compliance. So since you've already been here, in that here, click view travel history. and then just put I acknowledge and agree. Enter your travel information, and there, take note, it asks your passport number. So the passport number should be the passport where you have been issued a visa, a US visa. So that means it has to be the passport where your US visa is. So if ever you renewed, you have to check and go back to your old passport and enter that, and then you can click next, and all of the information that's asked in the form will all be there, like date of arrival, passport number again, date authorized, stay expired or will expire soon. I'm already on page 7 of 13, by the way. So in that case, you can provide all the information because it will show on the website itself. Now let's proceed. Here, does item 39 of part 2. So in our case, but I don't have any children, so I just put no. But if you do have, please put yes and provide the information needed. Now next, still on the same page, it says address in the US where your beneficiary intends to live. In this case, you can actually put an address, intention lang naman, so intends to live, right? In my case, I put my sister's address because that's temporarily where I will be staying. So it does not require you to really put information of like you have to buy a house and put in that information, but it has to be a valid address. And in this case, you have to take note of this because later on, since it's provided in the petition document, this is also the same place that you have to indicate when you're already in your interview. You have the option to change that, but my advice is that you can be consistent as possible just to be sure, for the entire petition process. So next is beneficiary's physical address abroad. In this case, this is where you live in the Philippines or wherever country you're from. And then if you have a native alphabet, you can put that. But for the case in the Philippines, just put an A. Obviously we use the English alphabet, so there's no need for this item here. So page 8 of 13, this is still information about you as a beneficiary. On item 51, of course, you should put no. And then for the rest, item 53, this is where the important thing would be considered already. So since you're applying for a K1 visa, you should meet the requirement of meeting in person during the 2 years immediately before filing this petition. So that means within 2 years of filing you have met during the past 2 years before you apply for the K1 visa. So you should put yes, and then since you have answered yes, provide additional information. Now what is this additional information? You can see, you can see in item 54 there's an entire space but not enough, but you can actually add it as a supplement. So after what I've been explaining here, again, I will put a quick slideshow of the information needed, so it will then give you an idea. But in this case, for the sake of explaining today, this is a description of how you met in person. So it's a statement, technically a letter to the USCIS of how you met. You should provide one each, so as a petitioner and as a beneficiary. So dalawang document yun. Now, what we did also to formalize this is that we provided our names in the end and then signed it. But technically, the first paragraph would say, I, state your name, met, state the name, on here, blah blah blah, and then you can already explain further. You can be cheesy, straightforward, however you need it, as long as of course it coincides with your fiancé story, and then sign it in the end with your name and possibly with the date as well. So item 55 on page 8 of 13 we put no, and obviously all the rest we put NA. Part 3, other information. It's criminal information according to your petitioner, and then just be honest as much as possible. But then if you do have a yes in between of those answers, you can provide additional evidences that has been settled. So next, I'll go through that, and then here it says, so this is where we got stuck at some point before. It says multiple filer waiver request information. So ideally you should skip it, don't click anything, because in this case it refers to if you have filed previous petitions in a way. So it did not apply to us, we just skip it. Part 4, biographic information. This is your petitioner obviously, so please check applicable boxes. Then part 5, petitioner statement, you should check 1A, since this is a video of do it your own, so obviously 1A should apply to you. And then 6A, that's your petitioner signature, and then a date of signature. So all the rest, please do not forget to put NA if it does not apply to you, like interpreter's full name, interpreter's contact information, preparer's name, all the rest after that. And also going back, please make sure that you've also included the petitioner's contact information. May it be the telephone number, and there's also a mobile telephone number, and of course the email address. Make sure it's correct and exact, perfect, just to be sure, because also the email address is very important if there are other communication needed from the USCIS to you. Okay, now let's go to the last page, that's page 13, part 8, additional information. This is what I have discussed earlier, wherein if items specifically like the address, employment history is not enough, please include that here. And in a way, make sure, no, my tip is just to have it in order, just so everything is in accordance to what the document was asking for. So now that you've had your Form I-129F ready, what are the other documents needed? Okay, so next is a letter of intent to marry. This is technically just 2 letters from your petitioner, or you as a petitioner, I was about to say that, and not a beneficiary. So in this case, it's just a 4-sentence, thing, or 1 paragraph that states I, name, born on, intends to marry, name, within 19 days upon admittance to the United States. So something like that, because again, the grounds of having a K-1 visa is that when you enter the US, you are required to marry within 90 days. Okay? So that's entirely just saying you're committing to do what's necessary for you as a K-1 visa applicant. Next, after doing that, you will have to provide proofs that you have met within the last 2 years, and at the same time, proof of ongoing relationships. So what are these? These refers to, of course, your pictures together. So for me, I'm such a fan of Canva. I've been using it way since I think it started. It was super easy. So Canva has this photo album designs, and then just include just put on or upload photos, put it all together in like a photo album. There's also a design that's given there. You can just edit it out. What I did is I only just included technically text to give my caption that includes the location, the date, and if there are other people in the photo, also explain who they are. So in my case, since we've met in Korea, we have photos with my friends in Korea and my colleagues, so I also included that. That's also a nice tip, that you can include other photos, which means, in terms of how genuine your relationship is, you can show that as a proof of how you met, The next is you could also provide plane tickets, boarding passes, and hotel reservations. This is just to prove that you have been together and how genuine your relationship is as well. And your chat or call log. So for us, so what I have researched is that you don't technically need to screenshot from start to finish, but you can just, you know, pick whatever you want to show the officer, immigration officers, and just put it on there, and just to prove how you are communicating as a couple. So what's next? All right, other documentary requirements needed. So in our case, since the goal again is to provide that he's capable and he's a US citizen, so you have to provide proof of citizenship as a petitioner. So we provided a copy of biographic page of his valid US passport. What we did actually was that a copy of his, so in a bond paper, a copy of his passport, and at the same time a scanned copy of the stamp, immigration stamp in the Philippines, because he visited me as well, and then a copy of his US birth certificate. So next is, if you've previously married, please provide a copy of the termination of the marriage, because again, you can't file a petition for a K1 visa, fiance visa if you are married. Step 5, this is an additional information that I wanted to provide, and what also we did and was applicable for us. So you may want to consider this as an option. These are additional forms that you can download from the USCIS website, or you can just directly search it in Google. So in terms of filing the fee, for our case, or for first, we check what are the modes of payments. So this is what was applicable for us. We downloaded the form G1450, that's authorization for credit card transaction. That means providing the information of whatever card you have. He had Navy Federal. It was also a debit card, so I guess, not guess, but technically debit card is also acceptable. You just have enough money for that in there, in the amount needed, and then a signature, but technically you can check it out. So that's what we did. We put the information, because for some of the people and from researching, I later learned that if you use checks, it can be challenging. There are instances when the checks bounces or the issuance is not correct and things like that. So just to be safe, and this one worked for us, I believe it's the safest option if you also want to just have all from the forms of USCIS. Second form is the G1145. That's the e-notification of application or petition acceptance. That means you give the USCIS authority to text you, use your number to text you and update you as necessary. So for example, if they receive your application, your petitioner will actually receive a text message informing that they have received it, and then they will give you the receipt number. That receipt number, you can use that already to go to the USCIS website to check your case and monitor it accordingly. Okay, now let's go to the final touches. You're already there. Now you've already compiled everything from your Form I-129F to your letter of intent to the supplemental details that gives information how you've met, to proof of evidences and ongoing relationship, to proof of citizenship. In this case, in order to put that together, please provide a cover letter. What does this contain? Technically, a table of contents of what are the documents that you have provided for the officer to check. In this way, it would be easier for them to also go over it. And then, so what I would want to share is what I have learned during our adjustment of status. So we've already adjusted our status. I did my biometric appointment, and upon learning, you can actually do this. So granted, this is a bond paper. This is the entire file that you have for your K1 visa packet. You can actually use a big, like the binder clips. I was about to say black. So put it here. And then you can put sticky tabs on below it. So they technically, or I mean specifically said in the website, on the USCIS website, that you can place the tabs on the bottom of the page, not on the sides. So could be here, and then actually, so one tab here that says something about like Form I-129F, and then the next tab will be letter of intent. So it's easier for them to just flip and go over it. Now, how are you going to put that all together? What is the order? According to how we did it, the first page would be your your filing form, and that is, let me just go back, that is your, hang on, okay, that's your Form G-1450. So that's the first page. Second page will then be your Form G-1145, that's the e-notification. Third page will be your cover letter. So your cover letter would then explain what's inside the packet. So first, obviously, should be your Form I-129F. Second should be the supplement according to item 54. So that's 2 letters or 2 supplement documents from beneficiary and the petitioner of how you met, with your signature and date and the bottom. And then third will be the proof of citizenship, may it be passport, copy of naturalization certificate, or the copy of US birth certificate. And then next is your copy. If you've previously been married, next is that document, may it be divorce, decrees, annulment documents, or their death certificates. And then after that is your letter of intent to marry. So from the petitioner and then the beneficiary. And then next is the proof of having met within the last 2 years and proof of ongoing relationship. So you can take all the time to put that towards the end so the officers can just freely scan through it. And then, sorry, I forgot one more thing. You will have to provide one 2x2 colored photo of petitioner and beneficiary. So in total, 2 photos with white background. So this is technically what will be used in your K1 visa, and at the same time an identification of who you are. Don't forget to write your name in the back. So what we did, actually, since going back, the first page would be the authorization for payment, and then on top of that you can clip your 2x2 photos on top, and if you want to make it secure, you can put it in a transparent cellophane and just clip it there. So that's it, and then you're on your way. Okay, so after that, now I will be sharing how we did it. So this is just an insider point of view of how we did it. So honestly and technically, I did 90% of the entire, packet thing. So I compiled everything, I filled in all the necessary documents. Obviously, it's a team effort, but I initiated on making the document just because I'm very particular of how things will be placed. So after that, I printed everything and did the binder thing. No, we did not do it in a binder way, but we used a portfolio and inserted the different pages. I realized that was very time consuming and may it also be in the officer's part. So that's why I advise you to just bind and clip it all together. And then I went to LBC and actually sent the documents here in the US. So in that case, he received it within 7 days. I sent it in May 2020. Kasagsagan ng pandemic. I was very anxious at that time. I was just hoping that the documents will reach him. Well, we wanted our timeline technically that we will have to send it on May. So I made it on time for 7 days. Made it here in upstate New York. And so after that, he received the packet. What I did was example, for the petitioner's signature, I just put the, yeah, so I put in the sticky tabs on the side. It says sign here, or put additional information here. So all he has to do was to include that and did his part, especially the wet signatures, of course, and then he was able to put it all together. Now, after that, he put it, or you can actually, if you are binding it, if you're binding it, put it in a hard folder first, and then here in the US, you can buy the yellow envelope. Some of it have the thick lining, and then you can just seal it off and send it. Now, in our case, since we were using a folder that time, the plastic type, he bought another one, the yellow packet with a thick lining, and then send it through. So that's how we did it in our part. And for the following days, I will have to look at it, and in a following video of explaining the next steps for it. So in that case, overall, that's how we did it for our DIY K1 visa application. And I'm here in the US now. I just finished my biometrics last August, and I hope that I will be able to explain more of it in the next videos. And this is just the initial stage. But remember, if we are able to do it on our own without attorney or a lawyer, without any other people helping us, you can do it too. You can save a lot of money. It takes effort. It's a team effort, but if we can do it, you can do it as well. So I hope you stay tuned for more videos that I will be sharing. After, you can also comment or ask me questions, and I will get back to you. So again, thank you so much. Keep safe and keep the love burning. Bye!